My son called me a loser in the house I built with my own 2 hands. He forced me to sign papers cutting me off, convinced I was broke and finished. He didn't know I was sitting on a $900 million secret. He was about to learn that old code sometimes holds the biggest surprises. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Let me back up and tell you how a single word shattered everything, and how I rebuilt it all. The hymn of the server room used to be my favorite sound. The heartbeat of Anderson Technologies. I built this company from my garage. 25 years of sweat, code, and cold coffee. Today, that hum sounded different. Like a funeral march. I sat in the main boardroom. The glass walls overlooked the city. A kingdom I had built. Across the long mahogany table sat the board members. People I had mentored. People I thought were family. They wouldn't look me in the eye. Robert Hayes, the chairman, cleared his throat. He always tapped his pen when he was nervous. Tap, tap, tap. The sound grated on my nerves. David, Robert began. His voice was coated in fake sympathy. Smooth, like oil on water. The market is shifting. You know this. The tech landscape is aggressive. I knew the landscape. I helped design it. I waited for the knife. We need a younger vision, he continued, reading from a script. A fresh perspective. The board has reviewed the company's direction, and we've made a difficult decision. He paused. I didn't flinch. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction. A younger board member, Jason Miller, leaned forward. He was barely 30. All ambition, no experience. He had a smirk I wanted to wipe off his face. We're restructuring, David, Miller said, cutting Robert off. He wanted the kill shot. Your position as CEO is being eliminated, effective immediately. Eliminated. Discarded like obsolete hardware. I was 58 years old, and just like that, the legacy I spent half my life building was gone. 25 years, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I built this place from nothing, and this is how it ends? A 2-minute meeting? We appreciate your service, David, Robert mumbled, staring at his notes. He couldn't even look at me while he executed me. The envelope there outlines your severance package. Security will help you gather your personal items. Appreciation didn't fill the sudden emptiness in my chest. They hadn't just taken my job. They had stolen my identity. And the worst part? The real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. The walk out of the building was a blur, the walk of shame. Employees averted their eyes. Whispers followed me down the hall. The weight of the betrayal pressed down on my shoulders, heavy, suffocating. I had sacrificed everything for this place. Time with my late wife, Elizabeth, weekends, my health, I missed soccer games, and school plays. All for the company. For what? A severance package and a hollow thank you. I reached for my phone. I needed to hear a friendly voice. I needed my son. Michael was my only child, a sharp, ambitious lawyer, expensive suits, flashy cars, and a wife, Emily, who was as beautiful as she was cold. I called him. I needed support. A lifeline in the sudden darkness. The phone rang 3 times. Michael, it's Dad. I'm in a deposition, Dad, he replied. His voice was clipped. Efficient. Always efficient. Make it quick. The warmth I needed wasn't there. But I pushed on anyway. I was desperate. The board pushed me out, Michael. I'm no longer the CEO. Silence on the other end. It wasn't shock. It wasn't sympathy. It felt calculating. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. The math being done. I waited for an "Are you okay, Dad?" I waited for anything. Instead, the silence stretched. Then the questions started, but they were the wrong questions. And they cut deeper than the board ever could. Pushed out? Michael finally said. His tone was sharp now, accusatory. What does that mean for your stock options? Are you fully vested? What's the severance package? We need details, Dad. My stomach twisted. I don't know the details yet, Michael. I'm overwhelmed. Overwhelmed doesn't help us, Dad. His tone sharpened. This is a disaster. A disaster for who? I was the one standing in the wreckage. Emily and I are closing on the new house next week. Michael continued, frantic now. The big mansion in the Palisades. This kind of financial instability could affect our mortgage approval. You know how important this house is to Emily? I felt a sting in my chest. A cold realization settling in. He wasn't worried about me. He was worried about his lifestyle. Michael, I lost my company, I said. my voice tight. Not a real estate deal. We'll talk tonight, Dad, he snapped. Don't talk to the press. Don't sign anything from the board. I'll handle this. He hung up. Just like that, I stood alone in the parking lot, the phone dead in my hand. The wind felt colder than before. He said he would handle it, but I had a sinking feeling he wasn't handling me. He was handling a problem, and I was the problem. I drove back to my house. It was too big now, too quiet. Every room held memories of Elizabeth. We bought this house together. We raised Michael here. Now it was just echoes of a life that no longer existed. I sat in my study. The walls were lined with awards, accolades, Innovation of the Year, CEO of the Decade. They felt meaningless now. Just pieces of glass and polished wood, mocking me. I poured myself a scotch. The burn didn't help. I was adrift. No anchor. No direction. The storm had hit, and I was drowning. I thought about Michael, his ambition, his coldness. I always excused it as drive, as focus. Now I saw it for what it was. Selfishness. Ruthlessness. He was afraid of failure. And fear makes people dangerous, especially people like Michael. The next morning I was still nursing my coffee when the doorbell rang. It was 8 a.m. sharp. Too early for visitors. I opened the door. It was Michael. But he wasn't alone. A man stood next to him. Sharp gray suit. Expensive shoes. Leather briefcase. He had the predatory stillness of a lawyer waiting for the kill. Michael didn't wait for an invitation. He brushed past me. His eyes didn't meet mine. They scanned the study, assessing, calculating the value of the furniture. Dad, Michael said, his voice low and urgent. This is Mr. Harrison. He's my personal attorney. Mr. Harrison offered a practiced, insincere smile. It didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Anderson, sorry to hear about your recent career change. Career change? Like I had decided to take up gardening. What is this, Michael? I asked, putting my mug down. The coffee tasted like ash. Michael walked over to my desk. My desk. He cleared a space. He moved a photo of Elizabeth aside, without looking at it. My stomach tightened. Who does that? Mr. Harrison opened his briefcase. The click was loud in the quiet room. He pulled out a thick stack of documents. The paper was heavy, expensive. We need to protect the family, Dad, Michael said. Family. The word sounded strange coming from his mouth. It sounded like a weapon. Protect the family from what? I asked, dread pulling in my stomach. From you, Michael said, his voice flat, cold. The words hung in the air, sharp, brutal. Your situation is precarious, Michael continued, pacing the room. He sounded like a lawyer cross-examining a hostile witness, not a son talking to his father. You're unemployed, Michael listed the charges. Facing potential lawsuits from disgruntled shareholders. The market is reacting badly to your dismissal. You are a liability. The audacity was breathtaking. A liability? I'm the one who was fired, Michael. Exactly. He pointed to the papers. These are documents for financial emancipation and separation of assets. I stared at the papers. Legal jargon swam before my eyes. Financial emancipation. It sounded like something you did to a teenager, not your 58-year-old father. I don't understand, I whispered. I understood perfectly. I just couldn't believe it. Michael sighed, exasperated, like I was a child who couldn't grasp basic math. He always did that when he felt superior. It means we are legally severing our financial ties, Michael explained slowly, emphasizing every word. Your debts become solely yours. Your assets. What little there are left after the market tanks remain yours. My assets remain mine. He paused, letting the words sink in. It draws a line in the sand, Dad, a clear separation. A line between him and me, a wall, a fortress to keep me out. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was wearing a watch that cost more than my first car. A Rolex I had given him for his graduation. The watch I bought with the money from the company I built. The company that paid for his law degree. You're cutting me off? The words felt thick in my throat, hard to push out. I'm protecting myself, he corrected sharply. He avoided my eyes. He always did when he lied. Look, Dad, Michael said, his tone softening slightly. A manipulation tactic. I worked hard to get where I am. I have a reputation to uphold. Emily has expectations. Expectations. It always came back to Emily. I can't have creditors chasing me because my father couldn't keep his company afloat, Michael continued, his voice rising in frustration. The betrayal was staggering, but the arrogance, that was new and terrifying. Couldn't keep it afloat, I snapped, the anger finally breaking through the shock. I built that company from nothing. I gave you everything, and now you're back to nothing. Michael's voice was cold, devoid of emotion. He pushed the papers toward me. The pen sat on top, cold metal. Then came the final blow. The moment the rupture became undeniable. The words that shattered everything. Michael leaned in close. His eyes were hard, cold as the marble floors he coveted. The air in the study suddenly felt thin, too thin to breathe. Mr. Harrison watched, impassive, a silent executioner. Michael's hand twitched. He adjusted his Rolex, a nervous tick. The silence stretched, taut, ready to snap. Sign the papers, Dad, Michael ordered. His voice was a cruel whisper. When you die broke, your debts stay yours. He paused, savoring the moment. I won't be dragged down by a loser. Loser. The word hit me like a physical blow. It knocked the wind out of me. My own son. I looked at him and saw a stranger. A greedy, terrified stranger. He wasn't worried about me. He was terrified of failure, and I was the face of it. My ears rang. For a second I forgot how to breathe. The room spun slightly. I wasn't going to let him see me break. Not here, not now. The shock receded. A strange calm settled over me. Hurt, yes. Deep, agonizing pain. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. A cold, hard resolve. Clarity. Clearer than I had been in years. I picked up the pen. My hand was steady. Steadier than it had been the day before. You want a line in the sand, Michael? I said, my voice quiet. Fine. I signed every page, // severing the ties, sealing the deal. Mr. Harrison notarized them quickly, efficiently, snap. Briefcase closed. He left without another word, the shark swimming away after the kill. Michael looked relieved. The tension eased from his shoulders. He thought he had won. He thought he was safe. Good, he said, nodding. That's smart, Dad. Smart. Another word ruined. Now, about the house, Michael continued, already moving on to the next item on his agenda. We should list it immediately. The market is hot. We can probably get a good price before the bank takes it. He was already picking over my bones, selling my home, Elizabeth's home. The arrogance was staggering. Get out, Michael, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. He stopped, surprised by the steel in my tone. Dad, be reasonable. We need to move fast. Get out of my house. He hesitated. He saw something in my eyes he didn't recognize. Fear? No. Resolve? He nodded curtly. Fine, but we're not done discussing this. The door closed behind him with a heavy, final click. The silence of the house was deafening. I sank back into my chair. The study felt cold, empty. I had lost my company. I had apparently lost my son. I looked at the awards on the wall, the symbols of my success. They felt like tombstones now. I was alone, truly alone. The weight of the last 48 hours crashed down on me. I had sacrificed everything for him, for the family, only to be discarded, called a loser. I put my head in my hands. Why, I felt broken, utterly defeated. I didn't cry. I was too empty to cry. The silence cut deeper than any word. I sat there for a long time. The sun moved across the sky. The shadows lengthened, but Michael didn't know everything. He thought he knew the game. He didn't even know the players. I walked over to the bookshelf, the one filled with first editions. I pulled out a copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. Behind it was a wall safe. I entered the combination. The safe clicked open. Inside there were documents. Elizabeth's jewelry, a few stacks of emergency cash, and a letter. A letter that had arrived 2 days before the board meeting, 2 days before my world fell apart. It was from a law firm in London, Albright and Finch. I pulled it out. The envelope was thick, cream-colored. The ink was black and precise. It informed me that my great-uncle Arthur had passed away. Arthur Anderson, a man I hadn't seen since I was a child. He was an eccentric investor, made a fortune in oil and early tech stocks decades ago. Lived like a hermit in a manor house in the English countryside. We exchanged Christmas cards. That was it. I always thought he was a myth. He wasn't a myth. He was very real, and he had left his entire estate to me, his only living relative. I read the letter again, the words blurring slightly. Mr. Anderson, we are pleased to inform you that you are the sole beneficiary of the estate of Arthur Anderson. Sole beneficiary. I turned to the next page. The financial summary. The numbers were staggering. The estimated value of the estate was just over $900 million. $900 million. Nearly $1 billion. The timing was almost comical. I was simultaneously an unemployed executive and one of the wealthiest men in the country. When Michael called me a loser, I was wealthier than he could ever dream of being. 10 times wealthier. I hadn't told anyone. Not Michael, not the board. I was still processing it. It didn't feel real, but the lawyers in London were very real. I had spoken to Ms. Albright yesterday morning, right after I was fired. The transfer of funds had already begun. The funds were already moving into secure accounts under my name. Michael had forced my hand. He had shown me exactly who he was. A shark. He smelled blood in the water and attacked. My blood, he thought I was weak. He thought I was finished. He had drawn the line in the sand, and now I knew exactly what I had to do with the money. The game had changed, and I was about to rewrite the rules. It was time to show them what this loser could do. The next few days were a blur. I didn't sleep much. I didn't need to. I was fueled by adrenaline and a cold, clear purpose. I stopped reacting. I started acting. I called the London law firm. Miss Albright answered. Crisp, British, unflappable. Mr. Anderson, we were expecting your call, she said. The initial transfer is complete. How would you like to proceed? I need a team, I told her. The best money can buy. Discreet. Efficient. Specialists in hostile takeovers. Consider it done, sir, Ms. Albright replied. By the end of the day, I had a team of lawyers and financial analysts. Wolves, the best in the business. They moved quickly. Setting up trusts, offshore accounts. Shell corporations. They were ready a fortress around my new fortune. While they worked, I knew I needed to talk to someone I could trust. Someone who understood family. Someone who reminded me of Elizabeth. I called Sarah. Sarah is my niece, Elizabeth's sister's daughter. She was the daughter I never had, especially after Elizabeth passed away. Sarah was the opposite of Michael. She was a social worker, lived in a small apartment, drove an old, beat-up car, and she had the biggest heart I knew. She arrived an hour later. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. Uncle David, she hugged me tightly. A real hug, not the stiff, awkward embraces Michael gave. I heard about the company, she said, her voice trembling. I saw it on the news. I'm so sorry. I've been so worried. She tucked her hair behind her ear. A nervous habit she had since she was a child. I'm okay, sweetheart, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Better than okay. Actually, we sat in the study, the same room where Michael had tried to dissect my life. It felt different now, warmer. There's something important I need to discuss, I began. I told her about great-uncle Arthur. I told her about the letter from London. I told her the amount. She stared at me. Her eyes, so much like Elizabeth's, were wide with disbelief. 900 million, she whispered. Dollars? I nodded. She burst into tears. Happy tears this time. Oh, Uncle David, that's amazing. You don't have to worry about anything. If only that were true. There's more, I said, my voice darkening. I told her about Michael's visit, about the financial emancipation papers, about the word loser. Sarah's joy turned to cold fury. Her face hardened. She looked so much like Elizabeth when she was angry. He did what? She demanded. He made you sign papers to cut you off? When he thought you were broke? He was protecting himself, I said, repeating Michael's words. They tasted bitter in my mouth. Protecting himself.
It's disgusting, Uncle David, Sarah whispered.
Tears of anger now.
That's not family. That's transactional.
She understood. My relationship with my son was a business deal, and I had been a bad investment. I agree, I said. And that's why I need your help. I explained the vision I had. A foundation named after her aunt, the Elizabeth Anderson Foundation, dedicated to things Elizabeth cared about. Sustainable technology, community programs, scholarships for kids who couldn't afford college, things Michael would never understand. I want you to run it, Sarah, I said. I want you to be the primary trustee. She gasped. Me? Uncle David? I don't know anything about managing that kind of money. I'm a social worker. You have the heart for it, I told her. You understand the value of community. You understand compassion. I leaned forward. You'll have help. Financial advisors. Experts. But I need someone I trust to lead it. Someone who shares my values. Someone who shares my values. Someone who understands that wealth is a responsibility, not a status symbol. Sarah looked at the photo of Elizabeth on my desk, the one Michael had moved aside. She nodded slowly, her eyes shining with purpose. I'll do it, Uncle David, for Aunt Elizabeth. And for you. The legacy was secured. Now, for the revenge. If this story is keeping you hooked, drop a subscribe. It was time to make some noise, and to take back what was mine. The next phase of the plan began. The foundation was established. The paperwork was filed. It was official. We started by making a large donation, very public, to the local community center where Elizabeth used to volunteer. It was falling apart. We saved it. The news hit the local paper. Mystery donor saves community center. I didn't put my name on it. Not yet. But the rumors started flying. People love a mystery. Meanwhile, the real work began. The quiet war. The hostile takeover. I met with my financial team. The wolves. The stock price of Anderson Technologies has plummeted since your dismissal. The lead analyst reported. Robert Hayes is a terrible CEO. The company is bleeding money. It's a bargain. Buy it, I said. Quietly. Aggressively. Buy everything you can. Through the shell corporations. No one can know it's me. The hunter was now the hunted. I needed inside information. I needed to know what Hayes was planning. I needed eyes and ears inside the company. I called Alan Chen. Alan was my former CTO, my right hand, my friend. He had been pushed out 6 months ago, replaced by a younger, cheaper programmer. We met at a small diner downtown. Alan looked tired, defeated. David, he said, gripping my hand. I heard what they did to you. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, Alan, I said. Be ready. I told him the plan, not the money part, just the takeover part. Alan's eyes lit up. You're going after them? Good. What do you know, Alan? I asked. I need to know the company's weaknesses, the skeletons in the board's closet. Alan hesitated. He was a man of integrity. They fired us, Alan, I reminded him. They discarded us. They called me a loser. Are you going to let them win? Alan looked at me. The fire returned to his eyes. No, he said, his voice firm. I'm not. Hayes is desperate. He's trying to sell the company to Marcus Vance. Marcus Vance. A corporate raider. A vulture.
You bought companies, stripped them for parts, and left the employees with nothing.
When I asked, my blood running cold, the vote is next week, Alan said. Hayes thinks he has the votes, but he doesn't know about the new shareholders. He didn't know about me. The race was on. A few days later, Michael called me. His voice was tight with suspicion. Panic. Dad, what are you doing? He demanded. No greeting, just interrogation. What do you mean, Michael? I asked calmly. You're still living in the house. How? The bank should have started foreclosure proceedings. He had been watching, waiting for me to fall, waiting for me to be homeless, and I heard rumors, he continued, about the community center donation. Was that you? Are you taking out predatory loans? Are you borrowing from dangerous people? He thought I was desperate, reckless. I'm managing my situation, Michael, I repeated. You're incurring massive debt, he yelled. Those papers we signed might not protect me if you're acting recklessly. His voice cracked with panic. The irony was suffocating. I swear, Dad, he threatened, if this impacts my credit score, I will sue you. He was threatening to sue his broke father for trying to survive. The depths of his selfishness knew no bounds. Do what you have to do, Michael, I said. My voice was cold, distant. I hung up. My resolve hardened. He had shown me no mercy. I would show him none either. But Michael didn't stop there. He was scared, desperate. He made a mistake, a big one. The next day I had a visitor, a man in a cheap suit, badge on his belt. Detective Ramirez, Fraud Division. Mr. Anderson. Detective Ramirez asked, flashing his badge. I'd like to ask you a few questions about your financial activities. My heart pounded. Had they discovered the takeover? My activities? I asked, feigning confusion. I'm unemployed. Detective. I don't have many activities. We received a tip, Ramirez said, his eyes scanning the study, the same way Michael's had, that you might be involved in fraudulent borrowing, securing loans under false pretenses. A tip. I knew exactly who the tipster was. Michael. He was trying to use the law against me. I smiled. A cold, calm smile. Detective, I assure you, I am not involved in any fraudulent activities. In fact, I have recently come into a significant inheritance. I showed him the letter from London, the bank statements, the proof. Ramirez looked at the documents. His eyes widened. $1 billion? Nearly, I corrected. Ramirez realized he had been played, used in a family dispute. He looked embarrassed. Who filed the tip, Detective? I asked, already knowing the answer. He sighed. Your son, Michael Anderson. Thank you, Detective, I said. I won't be pressing charges for the false report, but I suggest you advise my son to be more careful in the future. Ramirez left. Michael had failed, and he had exposed his own desperation. The day of the shareholder meeting arrived. My financial team called me that morning. We did it, David, they said. 51%, controlling interest. You are now the majority shareholder of Anderson Technologies. I own the company again. Robert Hayes and the board members who had fired me were now reporting to me. The twist was in motion. I put on my best suit, the one Elizabeth always loved. It was time to go home. I walked into the building, the same lobby I had walked out of just weeks before. I took the elevator up, 40 floors. I walked into the boardroom. The meeting was already in progress. Robert Hayes was standing at the front, talking about the merger with Marcus Vance. He stopped when I entered. The room went silent. The atmosphere was electric, nervous, confused. Robert Hayes, Jason Miller, the rest of the vultures. They stared at me. Shock, disbelief, fear. I walked to the head of the table, where Hayes was standing. You're in my seat, Robert, I said. Hayes stared at me, his face pale, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. David, what is this? You were fired. You have no authority here. I am the majority shareholder, I announced to the room. This meeting is adjourned. The merger with Vance Industries is canceled. Chaos erupted. Board members shouting, lawyers rushing in. Jason Miller jumped to his feet, his arrogance replaced by panic. This is illegal. You can't do this. The market shifted, I interrupted, using Hayes's own words against him. We need a vision that values experience, integrity, and long-term sustainability. I looked at each of them in turn, coldly, deliberately. Your positions, I said, savoring every word, are hereby eliminated, effective immediately. I fired them all. No severance packages, no golden parachutes, just a security escort out of the building. The king was back. I replaced them with a new board. Alan Chen as CTO, my lead lawyer as chief strategy officer, people who shared my vision, people who valued loyalty. The news of my return sent shockwaves through the industry. The stock price soared. Anderson Tech was back, stronger than ever. I sat in my office. The CEO's office, my office. I looked out the window at the city below. I had won, but the real confrontation was still waiting. The personal one. The door burst open. Michael stormed in. His face was a mask of disbelief and rage. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair was messy. He looked unhinged. "You," he screamed, pointing a trembling finger at me. "You manipulated me."
You lied to me.
"I didn't lie, Michael," I said calmly, leaning back in my chair. "I just didn't tell you the whole truth. You never asked. The takeover. The money. Where did you get the money?" he demanded. "Great Uncle Arthur died," I said. "He left me everything. $900 million. Michael's face turned white. He stumbled back. $900 million? You knew when I came to the house? When you signed the papers? Yes, I said. His shock turned back to rage. "You planned this all along. You tricked me. I planned to secure my future," I corrected. "Just like you. You ruined my life," he shouted. "I leveraged everything on the assumption that you were finished. The house, the cars, the loans. Emily is going to leave me. And that was your mistake," I said, my voice cold. "You underestimated me. You saw me as a liability, a burden." I paused, letting the word hang in the air. "A loser." Michael's rage dissolved. The fight drained out of him. He collapsed into a chair. Desperate pleading replaced the anger. "Dad, please," he begged, tears streaming down his face. "I was wrong. I was scared. I apologize. Please, don't do this." He begged. He pleaded. He even tried to threaten me, mentioning lawyers, familiar responsibility. But it was too late. The line had been drawn. I pointed to the memory of the papers he had forced me to sign. The financial emancipation. "You wanted a separation of assets, Michael. You got one. My assets are mine. My debts are mine. And your debts, they are yours. But I have nothing," he screamed, the reality crashing down on him. "You have the consequences of your actions," I said, my voice heavy with a father's disappointment. "You valued money over family. You valued status over loyalty. And now you have neither." He fell to his knees, sobbing. The son I raised was gone, replaced by a man consumed by greed. I looked at him, feeling a profound sadness. I hadn't wanted revenge. I had wanted a son. "There is a trust," I said, my voice softening slightly. "It's small, enough to keep you from homelessness, but not enough to maintain your lifestyle. You'll have to work, you'll have to rebuild. You'll have to learn what it means to earn a living, what it means to be a man." He looked up at me, his face stained with tears. He saw no mercy in my eyes, only resolve. I turned and walked back to my desk. The hum of the server room once again a comforting sound, the heartbeat of my company, my legacy. In the months that followed, Michael lost everything, just as he predicted. The new house in the Palisades was foreclosed on. The bank took the flashy car. Emily left him. She moved on to a wealthier prospect. A man who wasn't a loser. She didn't look back. Michael disappeared from the social scene. He lost his job at the law firm. His reputation was ruined. He moved to a different city. I heard he was working as a paralegal, earning a living. Finally, I hoped he was learning. Sarah thrived as the director of the Elizabeth Anderson Foundation. She was amazing. She managed the funds with wisdom and compassion. We transformed our community. We funded research in sustainable technology. We supported local businesses. We built a new community center. Bigger, better. The foundation became a beacon of hope, a legacy worthy of Elizabeth's name. Sarah found her calling, and I found my family. I stayed in my house, the one filled with memories, the one I built with my own 2 hands. I was a multimillionaire, a successful CEO, but I was still David Anderson, the innovator, the survivor. One evening I was sitting in my study, looking at the photo of Elizabeth on my desk, the same photo Michael had moved aside. The setting sun cast a warm glow on her smiling face. I realized that Michael had been wrong about everything. Wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in loyalty, love, integrity. I had lost a son, but I had saved my soul. I had built a legacy that mattered. I wasn't a loser. I was the richest man in the world. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comment. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.